500 people, that's how many Americans died in 2015 because of distracted driving. You don't need us to tell you texting behind the wheel is a huge problem. We know it frustrates a lot of you out there. That's why we're demanding answers from your elected leaders who aren't joining the rest of the country to strengthen Florida's distracted driving laws. Tonight, in the second part of a series seeking those answers, investigator Noah Pransky breaks down the excuses he's been hearing from state lawmakers.
The average text message will take your eyes off the road for more than 4 seconds. On a major road, that's like driving the length of a football field blindfolded. Certainly enough distance to kill.
You know, willing to give his life for his country, and yet it was taken by a distracted driver.
So why is Florida one of only 9 U.S. states where officers can still not pull you over for texting and driving?
Do you think that making it a primary offense would actually hurt the situation?
I think in some states what you're seeing is it doesn't help, and in sometimes it is showing that it's actually hurting.
So leading lawmakers are claiming cracking down on texting behind the wheel could make our roads more dangerous? Time to break down the 3 main reasons they're in no rush to toughen some of the country's weakest distracting driving laws. First, they claim accidents aren't dropping in states where texting is a primary traffic offense, one you can actually be pulled over for. They say banning texting behind the wheel might infringe upon your civil liberties. And they say police could abuse the new tool to pull anyone over. But are those explanations or excuses?
Why haven't you been more supportive of that over the years?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this texting and driving primary offense laws work. In many states, we're not seeing a reduction of accidents.
Jeff Brandes is one of the state Senate's leading players on transportation. He points to a 2010 report that suggested texting bans could encourage drivers to drive worse if they hide their phones in their laps more, therefore taking their eyes off the road longer. But there are also numerous conflicting studies that suggest cell phone bans reduce hospitalizations and fatalities. House Speaker Richard Corcoran says texting bans are still too new to know yet if they're a good fit for Florida.
Those 41 states, they didn't have it 5 years ago. This is all relatively new.
Actually, most of those states did outlaw texting more than 5 years ago, 35 states to be exact.
There's a lot of uses. They make phone calls. That's not an issue. That's not an issue in those other 41 states. They use it oftentimes for GPS purposes. Also not an issue in those 41 states.
Actually, 14 states ban all handheld device use behind the wheel. You've got to use Bluetooth, which is the only real way to curb this epidemic, according to the parents of that 21-year-old service member killed by a distracted driver.
We really need to be hands-free. Your hands need to be on the steering wheel. And it just makes me so angry. I look over and I see moms in the car with their kids. You know, and they're texting or they're Facebooking or whatever, social media, anything.
Explanation number 2 for not toughening up Florida's toothless texting laws: it could violate your all-American right to operate a phone behind the wheel.
Balancing people's rights, people's civil liberties with the protection of the people on roads.
Corcoran doesn't want to infringe upon your rights, but Florida already has a law in place that requires you to wear a seatbelt while driving. That's even a primary offense, so cops can pull you over for it.
Why is this different?
Well, we also have laws on the books called distracted driving. They could be putting on makeup, they could be eating food. All of those things right now, law enforcement has every full right to pull them over.
Yeah, distracted driving's a big problem in general, but cops can't pull you over in Florida for any of the things he mentioned until you do something else dangerous or potentially deadly first. And hang up number 3 about actually requiring drivers to hang up those handheld devices, concern that cops will abuse the power potentially to profile minorities.
Creating a situation where law enforcement can pull you over for any reason will lead to all kinds of negative consequences.
We didn't see that with seatbelts.
We didn't see, well, but if the major difference between this and seatbelts is people are putting on their seatbelts. But here, I don't even have to say that you had your seatbelt on. I can just pull you over because I see you have a phone in your hand.
But law enforcement leaders like St. Pete Police Chief Anthony Holloway say concerns are unfounded about what officers might do with a tougher texting law.
We don't profile. People always say that. We do the same thing as everybody else. If you see the person next to you using a cell phone, then you're going to pull them over.
He says it's a no-brainer to ban something so dangerous, not just texting, but all cell phone use behind the wheel.
We need that tool in our toolbox so we can educate our people. You may get a ticket. It may be an expensive ticket. So pull over, take a half a second, and stop texting.
Yeah, go ahead. You're all fired up about this. Noah's getting hundreds of comments about his stories.
Yeah.
You're mad about these lawmakers' excuses.
Patricia says if any one of these people that are not passing stronger laws were to lose one of their family members, I bet laws would change in a heartbeat.
Now, Mary writes, I don't understand their reasoning. Our legislators should be listening to their constituents or else they will be out of office. Well, after we kicked off our series Monday night, a national advocacy group reached out to us and said that they had just the facts for skeptical lawmakers.
The group called Stop Distractions was very upset. Legislators said texting bans could make roads less safe. And they provided us a series of studies from across the country that showed positive results from texting bans. I want to share those with you. Among the studies we passed along to the Speaker of the House last night was this, an Oklahoma report that showed distracted driver injuries, fatalities, and crashes all dropped after their law went into effect. A national study that showed teenage and young adult deaths dropped, and a Utah report that suggested intense enforcement could reduce overall crashes by as much as 30%. And we passed it along.
Yes. Now, the next step, lawmakers need to hear from you that tougher texting laws should be a priority.
We've gathered all of that contact information for you, for your friends. We've posted it on WTSP.com. It's also on the 10 News Facebook page. Easy to find.